Great
Kerri
speaker.
grew up in Long Island, New York, attended the University of Maryland for 3 years before transferring and graduating with a bachelor's degree in finance from Hofstra University. Shortly thereafter, she moved to Atlanta in 1995. With a finance degree and an investment analyst background, Kerri walked into an Atlanta staffing office in 2003, seeking help to find another analyst position. As the story goes, she was recruited to be a recruiter. Working for several staffing agencies and consulting firms, as well as an international recruiting for a few corporations, Kerri has a keen knowledge of managing high performance teams, strategizing with executive leaders, consulting with hiring managers and human resources partners, and sourcing and recruiting stellar candidates. Kerri has successfully managed relationships at all levels between the client/hiring manager and the job seekers throughout the interview process to ensure timely and effective placements. And I will say that Kerri is one of our favorite presenters, so it's terrific to have her back again.
Well, thank you so much, Jim, for the introduction. And I know a few folks have to jump off at 9, so I will do my best to do everything before then. It's just a lot of this is not, rocket science. Jim asked me to talk about current trends in recruiting and sourcing. And obviously, a lot of things have changed in the last year or so. And, as things change, we need to change, and we kind of try to figure out what's going on in between those two and try to find out how we can all better work together and have a better outcome in hiring and employment. So obviously 2020, what has changed? Well, the biggest thing is COVID and the pandemic. And with that, so 2020 has changed with COVID and the pandemic and everyone working remotely. And, a lot of people don't really realize what else has changed in 2020. We saw so much issue with the racial justice movement, with all of the riots and, the crying out of just being accepted, and, employers and people and friends just to be able to, accept people with more diverse backgrounds. So that was huge. And then with that, what has changed into going into 2021? We are recovering our economy, and things have quieted down a little bit. We are recovering from the pandemic a little bit. Things are getting back to normal. But with that, there is a shortage of qualified labor and job candidates. As Lynn mentioned, there's less and less people on these calls because people are getting jobs. And, what are we going to do about it? And why is that happening? And that's just kind of why I put together a few slides as to what are some of the trends as to what's going on. Well, one of them is called natural language processing. It's kind of a subset of artificial intelligence, and I'll talk a little bit about natural language processing. Some other trends are predictive analytics, the candidate experience. I'm sure Lynn can talk a lot about that and knows a lot about candidate experience and how candidates are driving what they want in the workplace and what their entire experience of interviewing needs to be and should be. And so this is very good and helpful for hiring managers just to get it from a candidate's point of view, what might be going wrong and what to do to improve the candidate's experience. Also soft skills, they're more and more important now, especially since most people are working remotely. So having those soft skills is just becoming more and more apparent, especially as you interview virtually as well. Also, that's becoming more important is hiring and promoting folks from within, internal hiring and recruitment. That's also a big thing. And then obviously everything virtual and digital. That is, the biggest trend that we're seeing from 2021 and beginning of 2020 and 21. So let me just start off with natural language processing. What is it? So, think of, Siri or Alexa on your at home. Although I just said that, and I think she just went off on my, she's, yes, what can I help you with? Google Assistants, voice, text messaging. So anything that is language and anything that a computer can manipulate human language, that's how it's a little bit different from artificial intelligence. So it enables computers to understand and manipulate human language. So when I ask, I call her A, because if I say Alexa in a conversation, she'll announce. So whenever I ask a question, she knows what I'm talking about. I don't know how. A lot of times she doesn't know what I'm talking about, and I have to tell her to be quiet. A lot of times I tell her to shut off the lights at the end of the night, and she doesn't hear me, but my husband, she hears him. So I don't know. Maybe it's just my voice. But so those are just some examples of natural language processing where the computer is understanding our voice. And how do we use that in recruiting? Well, obviously, if you've applied to some positions recently, there's that chat bot or that chat box in the bottom that says virtual assistant. How can I help you when you're applying for a job? And a lot of times these virtual assistants, you type in they're asking you to type in your title, or they're asking you to type in your zip code, asking you to type in some of, your education, and then they help you find jobs that might fit your background. So that's one way in recruiting that natural language processing could work. Also, intelligent document analysis, where you're actually, the computer is extracting some kind of meaning from your resume or your application, and then it helps you decide what kind of job might be best for you. And then also how it can help in recruiting is just document search and match. And that's really, through looking at your resume and identifying the best candidates. So that applicant tracking systems sometimes use this document search and match. And a lot of ATSs have a percentage match as to, okay, how many people of these 100 people, who's the 100% match, who's a 5% match. And that's what natural language processing does with applicants in their applications and their resumes. One of the most popular natural language processing tools is called HireVue. I didn't realize this, but it's used by over 700 companies, some of the top companies in the world. And what they do is they do a video interview software. That's what HireVue is. And, that helps with recruiting and hiring. And obviously some of the benefits is, faster hiring, faster being able to figure out who is the best candidate for a position in a quicker time period. That's how this can help you. So any questions on natural language processing? It's kind of cool. And it's interesting how it's just becoming more and more rampant. So the next big trend is predictive analytics. So, a lot of people think that, when you're analyzing current trends, but this current trends obviously can help you make future predictions. And that's what predictive analytics means, is just looking at the current data and how that could impact what you do in the future. So identifying strong hires for open positions, that's what predictive analytics can do. Make quicker and better offers, provide a better candidate experience. And what you do is you just use the current data that you have, and you use that and try to predict which employees might be at most risk of resigning. So unfortunately, as we may know, 75% of turnover is preventable. But if we have these predictive analytics, you can kind of, figure out who might be at most risk. And there's this whole package that you can use to look at someone's information within a company, look at their compensation compared to the market, look at how many times they've been promoted, or when's the last time they've been promoted, how long they've been in the current position. And some data algorithm can predict, if they're going to resign, if they haven't been paid, or they haven't been promoted, or if they haven't been recognized in their position. So that's kind of a pretty cool way of using predictive analytics. And a lot of people have already been using this, evaluating the skill gaps. So they've done, disc analysis or some kind of, personality or job analysis on someone, and they use this on their current employees, as far as who their star employees are, and they're the kind of benchmark. And you have potential employees taking these assessments just to see and predict how they might work with the team or how successful they may be in a current position based on, someone's, the star performers analytics. So anyway, so the end game with predictive analytics is that it does build better candidate offers, because you don't want to waste time, offering positions and hiring people who may not be with you in the future. But then again, the future is what, 2-3 years? That's probably the average these days of someone in a particular position. But again, 75% of turnover, that could be very expensive. So using these kind of analytics, could be very important. One of my favorite slides and talking points is the candidate experience. I've been a candidate. I've been on the other side of being a candidate. I've been a hiring manager. Right now, it's a candidate market, so they're getting offers very quickly. These next 2 bullet points are really eye-opening. 77% of talent leaders consider their candidate's experience to be excellent or very good. Well, if you've asked the candidate, 84% completely disagree. They have a negative experience while job searching. So obviously that's a huge disconnect. And why is that happening? Well, there's 30% of hiring managers who don't really receive, well, actually only 30% of the hiring managers receive interview training. So they're not interviewing the same way for every candidate, and they don't know the right questions to ask candidates. And sometimes they go off on tangents. Sometimes they ask inappropriate or illegal questions. And, the candidate doesn't have such a very good experience. And also the interviews themselves are very unstructured. If you have, 4 different people interviewing one candidate over 4 different time periods, there's repetition of questions. The candidate gets tired of answering the same question all the time. What happens after the interview? Maybe an email is sent out saying, I like this person or I don't like this person, but the feedback isn't specific enough, and it's not quantifiable. It's just not detailed enough. They just say, oh, I like them, or the interview went well. And there's no formal way of capturing how they interviewed, and more specifically, if the candidate would be a good match. And so the candidate is just left confused as to, their experience. Speaking of experience, the candidate expectations, I didn't realize that almost half of the candidates just refuse offers based on their bad experience. So that's pretty high. And across all demographic groups and all ages, the 3 most important things that candidates are looking for is the application process, that be very streamlined, the interview process be streamlined. They don't, have like 10 people that they interview over a 10-week period of time. And also just the overall experience. A lot of candidates complain about their recruiters not getting back to them in a period of time, or that they're just ghosted, or that there's no specific feedback. And so that experience is pretty negative. And so what can we do to, help the candidates during their experience? Speed, interview in a quick period of time, and be honest and transparent, and personalize the experience. Just let the candidate know, hey, you weren't really good for this position, but, you might be good for another one within our company. So just, candidates are just, we're people, they're people. And we just want to be able to treat them as you want to be treated. So, everyone's been in a job search before. So just, if hiring managers and companies can think of that, that might just go a long way. I think everyone might agree on that. Next is soft skills. Soft skills are becoming more and more important since 2020, and 89% of bad hires typically lack soft skills. And unfortunately, soft skills is just something that you either have or you don't. Soft skills, it's just, they're hard to teach. So, I mean, emotional intelligence, you can read books on it. You can improve your soft skills. It's hard to change. It's hard to, teach an old dog new tricks, but it is important to at least know what is important to hiring managers and what they are seeking. So the important soft skills are creativity, persuasion, teamwork, collaboration, adaptability, critical thinking, and time management. So how do you interview for that? It's hard, but to be able to, ask behavioral questions in an interview, you might be able to figure out, someone's soft skills. And, there's all different ways to assess a candidate's soft skills. I have them listed there, but, I think we're all very well aware of, soft skills are the intangible hiring, black box that most people say, well, there's not a cultural fit. Usually it just means that their personality or their go-getiveness is just not there. So that's my chat a little bit about soft skills. Internal hiring and recruitment. It's becoming more and more important because as people are getting more and more opportunities elsewhere, internal companies and departments are left with a lot of empty seats and they need to fill them quickly so there's no burnout. And internal recruitment is a way to really help with this because some of the advantages, it increases employee engagement. Employees are excited to see that other people are being hired or promoted within the company. It makes them want to stay and maybe work towards a promotion of their own. And obviously those soft skills that I talked about before are already known because, you've worked with the person already. And obviously it's more cost efficient and timely. So that's becoming more and more apparent. And then the last thing is everything virtual. I think most of us know this already. Interviews are now virtual. Most people are working from home. And that really does expand the talent pool because who was talking about, someone was working from a recreational vehicle, an RV, just interviewing and working from anywhere in the country or sometimes anywhere in the world. As long as you have an internet connection. I don't know if it would be good for Richard given his internet connection, but most people, have those internet connections anywhere and can work flexible work schedules or flexible time zones. And it's definitely increasing the talent pool. And also social media, the way we're using social media is changing and it's being increased. Recruiting on Facebook and Twitter has always been there, but how we're using it is changing a little bit. We're using more hashtags, more videos, more eye-catching content, and more sharing because everyone is at home. Well, most people are at home working on their computers. So what they're seeing and what they're doing, they're glued to their computers all day long. So those are the main trends. So, just to sum it up, times have changed and so must we. More companies are going virtual. They're shifting their trends. They are in promoting from within, and they're definitely including more diversity from all of the racial injustice from last year. They're being more aware of diversity. And just we're changing. If you don't change with the times, sometimes you're left behind. And this is I can't tell a time in my 20 years of recruiting where things have changed so much. It's kind of exciting. It's scary, but being flexible and being adaptive to change is definitely going to be at your advantage these days.
Kerri, you mentioned that it looks like only 30% of people have been trained to conduct an interview.
Yes.
So how does a candidate deal with the 70% out there who don't really know what they're doing?
Well, well, they don't accept the position. Their experience is just poor. And it's really up to the companies themselves to train the hiring managers and to have interview guides and to put some kind of structure in place. And a lot of it is up to the recruiting department, or a lot of it is up to human resources to put these interview templates together and just educate the hiring managers the best way to interview. Don't ask if someone is pregnant, or don't ask if someone is going to retire soon, or just don't ask the illegal questions. And some managers don't realize when they ask someone, what was your weekend like, and what did you do on the weekend, or did you go to church yesterday, that really delves into someone's personal livelihood. And sometimes hiring managers, when they're interviewing, don't realize that that is not the most appropriate way to communicate with a potential employee.
It's still amazing to me that, that's been a trend that I've noticed throughout my career.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's sad.
the only time I ever got any training was with when I was with PepsiCo. That was the only employer that I mean, it was great training. It was the targeted selection model,
Yes.
which I think was terrific. But yeah, so I really have to coach my candidates on ways to work around people that just don't know how to conduct an interview, and it's really a problem.
Right. And a lot of times what I do as well in coaching candidates is to be succinct yet detailed, not go off on tangents, and, to answer questions within 2 minutes, correlate your experience with what the job entails. So a lot of it is just coaching the candidate as
Right,
well.
right, to work around.
Hmm.
What other questions for Kerri?
No, but I'm going to make a comment. So what Kerri said about the mathematical score, what happens is that's something called contextualization. And the bot reads not only the key word, but the words before it and the words after it. So that's a whole phrase. So that's the importance of having the matchy of the words from the job description in your resume. When you go to jobscan.co, they tell you, 80% match and above, but that's not necessarily true. I have heard both sides of the coin from recruiters or hiring or HR departments, where they base the mathematical score. They may say, there's too many people that are coming in. I don't have time to review all those resumes. So I want 95% match or above, or 98% match or above. Others say, we let everybody through. So I've heard both sides of the coin. So you never know what you're dealing with. So you definitely want to, make sure you take the time to customize each resume for each job because of that mathematical score.
So I just have another follow-up question. So just in connection with the cover letter, I know you can make specific points in the cover letter, but how much does the cover letter get taken into consideration as well? Because obviously, you have a resume, it goes through this ATS system, etc. But does the cover letter go through it, or how does that work? The value of a cover letter.
I don't think cover letters really get through to the ATS too much. Would you agree with that, Lynn?
Usually at the end of an online application, you want your deconstructed resume for the word upload. And then at the end, you can attach your pretty resume as well as a cover letter. And again, I've heard both sides of the fence from HR professionals where they'll say, if I'm really on the fence between two candidates, it might be because one person's cover letter is better than the other. But I've also heard, oh, I don't have time to read cover letters. So you don't know what you're dealing with. If they ask for a cover letter, you need to submit it. If they don't, you know, you have to wait and see what happens with the interview process. But it's the resume that gets read and scored to the best of my knowledge for the ATS, not the cover letter.
Correct.
You know,
just
from
to
my
go back to
experience, the biggest problem with cover letters is people just don't know how to write a cover letter. And they're all, it's like, they don't know how to get to the point quick enough. And, you know, so I'm sure they're probably 95% trashed.
So could I just pick you up on that point, Lynn, then just as well, but in connection with, you kind of talk about a deconstructed resume, putting that out first, and then your nicey resume second. Is that what you said? Or
Yes. So let me pull up a couple. I'm going to pull up a YouTube video and put it in the chat, and then I'm going to put up an article. The YouTube video is an hour and a half. That is my ATS presentation. But just give me a minute. So do something else in the meantime while I pull up a couple links for you.
yeah, because it's interesting. Sometimes when you're filling out a job application online, and you know you put in your resume, and you just don't know how it
Yeah. So basically, you want to take your resume down to Arial 12-point font, no formatting, no borders, no shading, no tables, no columns, no bold, no italics, no nothing. It's just Arial 12-point font. So if you were to take your resume and sort of make it a TXT file, that would be the equivalent of it, except I don't like taking it down to a TXT file. I like to control the spacing, and I don't like the ASCII format where it turns the bullet points into asterisks. So I have found that black bullet points do not make an issue. I'll just give you an example. My daughter applied for Del Boomi, and they have the Workday system. So her resume, deconstructed resume, was just zapped up in a nanosecond, and it populated in all the different fields in the ATS. But there were 3 issues she had to fix. One is it didn't put commas after the city, before the state. 2, it put her volunteer experience into the work experience. And 3, you know how some resumes you have like a paragraph or a sentence before you have all your bullet points? So it took away, she didn't have that sentence. She just had straight bullet points. So it took away the bullet point on that first thing, and she had to put the bullet point back. But lots of people have problems where they're, you know, making this application, and if you have to copy paste from your resume into the little blocks of data, your resume is not being read. It should populate within split second, and just like that. So you know that you've got problems with the formatting of your resume. So as I said, I'm going to find you the links to the article and my presentation, and then you'll have that.
Thank you.
I was, you know what, there's another article I could add. I was just interviewed by Lenza, and they have like 11 million subscribers. So I haven't, they did a little video on me. So maybe I should put that in there also.
Lynn, did you say that it's jobscan.co that is the
Yes,
the tool?
that's one of them. I use wordart.com because it's free, but then when I deal with clients, I show them how to analyze the text in a job description, and I have a color coding system, and I do data-driven decision making. So we look up keywords, and everything gets color coded, and then you can see from most to least, you can see alphabetically, and then when you take your base resume, you've got that color coding system, and then you weave the colors in from the exact match from the job description keywords into your resume. It's a little complicated. I do that in a couple of presentations. So
Kerri, I guess, a lot of the statistics you had on here really points to me, at least, it points to the value of networking and having a referral source or somebody that can, make a good connection for you to, talk to somebody with the hiring company.
Yes, can never underestimate the power of networking, but networking can take you so far. You have to really almost be that much better when you are referred, because the expectations are a lot higher when you're a referred candidate.
Good point.
Yeah, one thing I'll note that, since candidate experience is so important, it makes it more important for the hiring managers in the companies to realize this. And sometimes, acknowledging something is the first step. And it's not always easy for hiring managers to realize that, candidates are either not good or that they don't accept an offer. And it could be because of the entire interview process. So, companies do have a big responsibility, more so now since it is a candidate market, to kind of up their game and hire and interview quicker and just be a little bit more streamlined.
So thank you all for attending. Look forward
Thanks.
to seeing you at a future meeting. And unless there's any last minute questions for me or Kerri or anybody else, be sure to save the chat feature, so you'll have some interesting information from Lynn. And enjoy the rest of your week.
Thanks, Jim, for all you do.
Thank you, Kerri.
Take care. Bye.
Bye, folks.
Bye.